Hello everyone, this is Midnight Paradise ASMR. In this video, I will be reading a little bit of Frankenstein in light of Halloween around the corner. It's by Mary Shelley. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to finish today, but I will read as much as I can. Alright, let's read the back. Victor Frankenstein leads an idyllic life in Switzerland with his family and friends until a thirst for knowledge sends him off in search of something that no human being has yet attained: the ability to create life. Victor's success soon proves that through the work of his own hands, he and his family are destined to live a life of pain and suffering. It's Victor Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster. Now, I bought this book at my local library. Going was a local. It's about 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from me, but it's one of my favorite libraries. Let's get started. Okay, it's the same thing on the inside. Frankenstein. Chapter 1. Robert Walton's Correspondence. To Mrs. Saville, England, St. Petersburg, December 11, 17. Dear Sister, you will be happy to hear that yesterday I arrived safely at my destination. I know that you are worried about my voyage and the dangers that I will face in order to succeed. I am already far north of London. As I walk through the streets of St. Petersburg, the cold northern breeze seems to call me onward. It is just a hint of the icy climate that I must still travel through. But at the pole, which I will be one day ready, the sun is forever visible, what might be found in a country of eternal light. Perhaps there my hunger for adventure will be satisfied. All of my fears of danger or death disappear when I see this vision before me. If I discover a passage near the pole to those countries, which now take many months to reach, or unravel some secret of the magnet, then humanity will have benefited. It has taken 6 years, but I am now realizing my dreams to prepare my body for the extreme climate that I must pass through to reach the pole. I accompanied the whale fishers on several expeditions to the North Sea. I endured cold, hunger, thirst, and exhaustion. I devoted my nights to the studying of all the branches of science that would aid my expedition. And now, dear Margaret, do I not deserve to achieve greatness? I might have passed my life in ease and luxury, but I preferred glory to wealth. My courage is firm, but I often doubt that I will achieve my purpose. That is the most favorable time to travel in Russia. The Russian sleds fly quickly over the snow and far more agreeable than the English stagecoaches. The cold is bearable if you are wrapped up in heavy coats and fur. In a few weeks, I shall depart St. Petersburg for Archangel. There I will hire a ship and as many sailors as I think necessary. I do not intend to sail until June. If I succeed, many months, perhaps years will pass before I am able to return to you. But if I fail, you will see me again very soon, or never. Farewell, my dear sister. With love, Robert Walton. To Mrs. Saville, England, Archangel, March 28, 17. Dear Margaret, the time passes slowly here in this land of frost and snow. I have hired a ship and sailors that I believe to be courageous and dependable. Still, I yearn for a real companion, someone who can share the joys and sorrows of my grand adventure. I am in need of someone to help guide me in this perilous journey. For the first 14 years of my life, I ran wild and read nothing but our Uncle Thomas's books. Now I am 28, and my lack of education shows. My romantic dreams of adventure need to be reined in. I look in vain among merchants and seamen, for their lives are driven by necessity. The winter has been severe, but spring has come remarkably early. Perhaps I may sail even sooner than I expected. Now that my journey is about to begin, I feel a mixture of exhilaration and fear. Yes, there's a dreamer in me. It is true that I seek fame and glory, but I am also a hard worker and concerned for the safety of the crew. I cannot promise you that all will go well, but I have great hope of seeing you again. In the meantime, please continue to write me. Your letters bring me such comfort. Your affectionate brother, Robert Walton. To Mrs. Saville, England, August 5, 17. Dearest sister, although it is likely that you'll see me before this letter reaches you, I must record the strange things that have taken place. Last Monday, you were almost completely surrounded by ice. It closed in on the ship on all sides, scarcely leaving her room to bob in the sea. Adding to the danger was a thick, blinding fog. At about 2 o'clock, the mist cleared away, and we saw stretched out in every direction vast and irregular plains of ice. The crew grew anxious, and I must admit, so did I. The appearance of a sled drawn by dogs, which passed northward half a mile away, drew our minds away from the danger. The figure who sat in the sled and guided the dogs along the ice was enormous. We viewed his rapid progress through our telescopes. Since we were shut in by ice, it was impossible to follow his tracks. Before nightfall, the ice broke, and our ship was free. In the morning, I went on deck and found the sailors talking to someone in the sea. I saw a sled like the one we had seen in the night before. It had drifted toward us on a large fragment of ice. Only one sled dog remained alive. A human being lay inside the carriage. The sailors were urging him to board our ship. He certainly was not the giant we had seen through our telescope. When I came on deck, one sailor said, "Here is our captain, and he will not allow you to die on the open sea." The stranger spoke to me in English, but he had a foreign accent. "Before I come on board your vessel," he said, "will you tell me where you are headed?" Astonished that he did not gladly scramble on board, I replied that we sought the northern pole. When he heard this, he nodded his head, and the men helped him on board. His body was still lean and frozen. Before we could carry him to the cabin, he fainted. We worked to revive him on deck. As soon as he began to move again, we wrapped him up in blankets and placed him near the chimney of the kitchen stove. Slowly he recovered and made some hot soup, which restored him. 2 days passed before he was able to speak again. Then I had him taken to my own cabin, and I cared for him when I could. His looks are quite remarkable. His eyes are wild, even mad. But if anyone is kind to him, his face lights up. Generally, he is depressed. It is clear that his mind is weighted down with a great burden. I tried to restrain the sailors from distressing him further by asking questions, but the lieutenant asked why he had come so far up on the ice in his sled. To follow a bitter enemy, he replied. Does this man travel in a sled? The lieutenant asked. Yes, he said. Then we have seen him. The lieutenant replied, the day before we rescued you, we saw a sled across the ice. Aboard, it was a man of monstrous proportions. The stranger became very agitated when he heard this. He tried to discover which direction the demon, as he called him, traveled. Later, the stranger asked me if I thought that the other sled had been destroyed when the ice broke. I replied that the traveler might have arrived at a place of safety before the ice broke, but I could not be certain. After this exchange, I noticed that he became more animated. He was eager to be on deck to watch for the other sled, by promising that someone else would keep watch. I persuaded him to rest in the cabin. The stranger has gradually improved in health, but is very silent and appears uneasy when anyone except me enters his cabin. I must tell you that I have taken him like a brother, and I am troubled by his grief and despair. He must have been a nobleman in his better days. I said in one of my letters that I thought I would never find a friend on the wide ocean. I believe I have found such a man who, before his spirit was broken by misery, would have been a true companion. R.W. To Mrs. Saville, England, August 13, 17. Dear Margaret, my affection for my guest increases every day. He is gentle and wise, much recovered from his illness. He is always on deck for his demon on sled. One day, as I spoke to my new friend, he became gloomy. He placed his hands over his eyes, and I saw tears trickle between his fingers. He exclaimed, "Let me reveal my tale." With these words, he collapsed, and many hours of rest were necessary to restore his composure. He turned his attention upon me, asking for the history of my earlier years. I spoke of my desire for a friend and expressed my belief that a man could boast of little happiness if he did not have such a friend. He heartily agreed with me and said, I once had for a friend the most noble of human creatures. I have lost him, and far more than he. You have hope and the world before you, and have no cause for despair. But I have lost everything and cannot begin life anew. R.W. To Mrs. Seville, England, August 19th, 17. Dear Margaret, yesterday the stranger said to me, "You seek knowledge and wisdom as I once did. I hope that your desires may not be a serpent to sting you as mine have been. I had hoped that my story would die with me, yet when I think that you may be on the same course, exposing yourself to the same dangers that have destroyed me, I am driven to share this tale with you. R.W." Here is the story of how Victor Frankenstein became the haunted figure that Robert Walton saved from drowning in the frigid seas. Told to and recorded by Walton, these words reproduced as nearly as possible to those of Frankenstein himself. It is end of chapter 1, and I think I will end that there. I will continue this some other time, but I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!